Hi, this is Sue Jackson here with my October reading wrap-up. I've tried to decorate for the season. This isn't technically a Halloween mug, but I thought it looked kind of spooky. It's actually a national park mug. But it was the most Halloween-y thing I could find in the mug cabinet. I'm recording this just a little bit early. Normally, I would wait until the month is completely finished. This will be posting on Halloween, the last day of the month, and I needed to wrap things up a little early this month because I have to turn my laptop into Apple for some repairs. Spent an hour on the phone yesterday with Apple Care, which is amazing. Apple has the best customer service in the world. And unfortunately, they couldn't find any software issues with why my camera's not working on my laptop, which means I can't do any Zoom calls, I can't do interviews, podcast interviews, anything like that right now. So yeah, unfortunately, it is the hardware. So I have to take it into the Genius Bar tomorrow. So I want to get this video all finished and edited and posted or scheduled before I have to turn in my laptop, which is like turning in my right arm for a week. Hopefully it'll only be a week. For now, let's get to the books. In October, all of my reading was darker, spooky, creepy themed for the RIP reading event, which is in its 20th year. That stands for Readers Imbibing Peril. It's now hosted on Instagram, hashtag RIPXX, if you want to check out some of the posts. I love it every year. I love reading darker stuff in the fall. So October was completely devoted to that. I am also still working on the Book Cougar's Year of Reading Ghost Stories and my Ghost Story Bingo card. And I discovered something new for October here on Booktube, and that is the TBR Harvest. So I've got my TBR Harvest pumpkin patch, and there was also Tombs and Tomes, which had to do with covers. So let's jump into the books. I finished 4 books in print and 2 audiobooks. And by the time the month is truly over, tomorrow night, I will have also finished a graphic novel. My first book of the month was Burn by Peter Heller. He is one of my favorite authors. I've got a couple of his other books up here, The Guide and the Last Ranger. My husband and I have both also read The River, and I've read Celine. I really like his writing. He writes beautifully about nature, but he also writes thrillers. These are all outdoor thrillers that I've named. Burn is a little bit different because it's an apocalyptic thriller. Not post-apocalyptic, but apocalyptic. The basic premise is that 2 men are lifelong friends. They've been friends since their childhood in Vermont. Every year they take a hunting trip. This year it's in the Maine woods, far northern Maine, which is, if you've ever been up there, is pretty remote. Not a lot up there. Lots of beautiful forests and mountains and lakes and rivers and some small towns. So these 2 men are in the backcountry on their annual hunting trip. And after 5 days, they come out of the woods thinking they'll try a different spot. They're looking to hunt moose, and they haven't seen too many yet. So they come out of the woods, get into their car, and find that they can't go anywhere because every single bridge has been destroyed. So they put their backpacking gear on. They figured they'll walk to the nearest town, see what's going on, maybe rent a car. So they walk to the nearest town, and it is completely burned to the ground, every single building. The only thing left are the boats in the harbor on the lake. They walk down into the town, and even eerier, they can't find any people, dead or alive. They have no idea what happened while they were in the woods. So that's the premise here, and it's a really gripping story. I think this is one of the most suspenseful books that Peter Heller's written to date, because you are just on edge. The tension is enormous. You don't know what's going on. You're right there with these two men. No idea what's happening. Gripping thriller, lots of suspense and tension, plus that beautiful nature writing that Heller is known for. I really enjoyed this book. When you find out what's going on, it's a little close to home. It's the sort of thing that is actually somewhat realistic given what's going on in our world today, how divisive things are. And it does end kind of abruptly. You know, I turned the last page and was kind of like, oh, that's it. And my husband was sitting next to me. He had already read it, and he was like, yeah, it just kind of ends. But things are more or less wrapped up. So enjoyed that. I love reading everything Peter Heller writes. I've got The Dog Stars up on my shelf, which my husband already read. I think it's a post-apocalyptic novel. So looking forward to that. My first audiobook of the month was one that I completely forgot to finish telling you about. I mentioned it when I started it, and then I was in a rush for several Friday reads and just completely forgot to tell you about it. So wanted to make sure to mention it here. And that is The Best of All Worlds by Kenneth Oppel. This is a YA novel. Kenneth Oppel is known for his outstanding middle grade and YA books. And this one is really unique, super creepy, very suspenseful. So it begins with, I'm trying to think how old he is at the beginning. I think the main character, Xavier, is 13 at the beginning of the novel. 13 or 14. And he's gone with his father and his new stepmother to their cabin at the lake for the weekend. He's gone kind of grudgingly. He'd actually rather stay home, play D&D with his friends, and there's a girl that he kind of likes, but he agrees to go. His dad wanted him to come for the weekend, and it was his weekend to spend with his dad. So he leaves his mother and older brother at home. They go up to the lake. They arrive at night, go to sleep. They wake up in the morning, and everything is different. They look outside. There is no lake. There's no driveway. There are no roads. They are in the middle of what looks like a small farm with no roads, nothing familiar around them. That's the setup for this novel. It's their cabin, seemingly transported somehow overnight to this unfamiliar place. They've got some goats and chickens. So the three of them, they have no choice. They walk around, they explore, they find that they're in a big dome of some kind, but they can't see beyond it. It just looks like the sky above them. And at night it turns dark, and it seems like they don't know where they are. So they're talking about, are they still on Earth? Have they been abducted by aliens? They have no idea what's going on. But they have no choice but to settle in. Milk the goats, get eggs from the chickens, feed the animals, plant some crops. There are seeds there and manual tools. Nothing. They do still have electricity, but of course, no internet, no phone, nothing like that. No way to contact anyone. That's the premise here. It is really intriguing, a very unique concept, and with lots of surprises. And the way it unfolds is just really well done. Kenneth Oppel is such a good writer. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, so I won't tell you any more about it, but just, it is an outstanding novel, and it was excellent on audio. Next up in print, I read The Splinter Effect by Andrew Luddington, a book I gave to my husband for Father's Day that I have been dying to read myself. This is about a time-traveling archaeologist. This is right up my alley. I love time travel novels. I love how twisty and thought-provoking they are. So in this case, the main character is Rabbit Ward, a chronoarchaeologist who works for the Smithsonian Institute. His job is to rescue artifacts that they know would otherwise be lost to time. So in the opening scenes, he's at the Library of Alexandria just as the fires have started, and he's there to save 6 scrolls that contain 6 of Sophocles' plays that history tells them were lost on this day. And this is true. A bunch of, not just Sophocles, but a bunch of written documents were lost that day. However, Rabbit's got an unpleasant surprise. The thief that's been following him around for the last few missions is there. And she's holding the scrolls that he was trying to save over the flames and saying if he doesn't agree to split them with her, she's just going to drop them and let them burn. So he has no choice. He agrees to that. Sure enough, gets back to his own time, digs up the spot where he buried them in a specially made glass case that he had a local artisan make for him, and finds out that she was there ahead of him and there are only 3 scrolls left. So all of this is damaging Rabbit's reputation. But what bothers him most is a mistake he made 20 years ago at the start of his career, when he lost the menorah of the Second Temple in Rome during the time of the Roman Empire. And on that same mission, and in the same way, he not only lost the artifact, he also lost his young mentee. And he has felt guilty over this for 20 years. But he saw him die. He knows he can't do anything about that. But he decides to repair his reputation and ease his guilty conscience. The least he can do is try to save the menorah. Additional research has shown they have an idea that it went to Constantinople after that. And so Rabbit heads to, I think it's 535 in Constantinople. So I expected all the exciting twists and turns of a time travel novel. What surprised me about this novel was the incredible historical detail included here. I read it with my iPad next to me. It probably took me twice as long to read it because I was constantly looking things up. When they described a certain place in Constantinople at that time, I looked up, what did it look like? The ruler at the time was Julian. I'll double check, but I think it's Julian. My son knows all of this stuff. He loves ancient history. But I knew nothing about any of it, and it was fascinating. So it worked for me on 2 different levels, plus great character development, lots of suspense. I really enjoyed this and was pleased to hear that it's the beginning of a new series. Next up for me was my book group's choice for October, The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. As it says right on the cover, #1 bestseller. So many people, I've heard so many people rave about this novel. So I was glad to finally read it. And I enjoyed it. It's a fun, fast-paced thriller. However, I guessed all of the twists before they happened. And that is not me. I am normally a very gullible reader. I go wherever the author is leading me. I'm shocked when there are plot twists. I saw it all coming in this book. And when I got to book group, I found out that several other people did as well. So I gave it a 3 on Goodreads. It was good, just not a great read for me. If you want a psychological thriller, I think there are better ones that are much better written and better plotted as well. The opinions in my book group, we rate out of 10, and the ratings ranged from 2 to 10. Wide range of opinions. Some people in our book group love this book and have read the rest of the series. Others thought it was very poorly written. As I said, there were others like me who predicted all the twists, which is really odd for me. You know, so I think it's a fun, fast-paced thriller, if that's what you're looking for. My last major novel in print for October was The Sirens by Amelia Hart. This is not my usual kind of read, but I am so glad that I got to it. First, I heard one of the booksellers at Booktopia, that event I go to in Vermont every spring, raved about this book. And then several of my friends from Booktopia read it based on his recommendation. And then I received it in a subscription box that my son got me. So I thought, okay, it seems like I should read this. I say it's not my usual kind of thing because it is fantasy. But I really did enjoy it. And I know this about myself, about my fantasy preferences. I don't really enjoy fantasy set fully in a made-up world with all the world building. My son loves that stuff. That's almost all he reads now. These big honkin' epic fantasies with lots of world building. He's actually working on writing one himself now. For me, that's not really my thing. However, I have noticed before that I do enjoy some kinds of fantasy where it's set in the real world, but there are elements of fantasy. The Harry Potter series, for instance, The House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea, two of my favorite books last year. So I like that kind of fantasy, and that's kind of where this falls. So what we've got here is the story of two sets of sisters, one in 1800 and one in roughly present day, 2018. The sisters in 1800 are from Ireland, and at the start of the book, they're being loaded on a ship, along with 78 other women who are prisoners. They've been jailed for some reason. England has taken over Ireland, and they are shipping these convicts, these female convicts, to Australia, their new convict colony. So these two sisters, Mary and Eliza's blind. They are scared to death. They're being loaded on this ship. Mary's holding Eliza's hand, even though they're shackled, and, you know, trying to explain to her what's going on and describe things. And then most of the book, they are on this long, harrowing journey to Australia. The present day story is about two sisters named Jess and Lucy. There's quite a big age difference between them, but they've always been close until recently. Jess is kind of pulled away, and Lucy, the younger sister, has been really hurt by that. So her opening scene, Lucy, she's in college in her dorm building, and she wakes up choking one of her male classmates. She's in his dorm room choking him with her hands around his neck. She has no memory of how she got there. She realizes she was sleepwalking when she did it. She knows he's going to call the police, and so she flees. She remembers when they were younger and Jess was still living at home that Jess used to sleepwalk. So she takes off on this very, very long drive across desert to get to where her sister is currently living, which is in this seaside town in this decrepit old house, like kind of hanging on the edge of a cliff. But when she gets there, Jess isn't home. Her phone is there, her car is there. She has no idea where her sister is. So that's the setup. And the other thing that you know right from the beginning is that Lucy is dreaming about, in vivid, real-life images, she is dreaming not just about the two sisters in 1800, Mary and Eliza, but that she is Mary. And these dreams are so vivid and so real and so terrifying. And when she wakes up, sometimes she's been sleepwalking as well. So that's the setup here. And I don't want to tell you anything else because this book also has a lot of surprises along the way. I kind of figured out some of what was coming, but that's not the whole point of this book. It's not meant to be, I don't know, maybe some element is meant to be surprising, but this book also has incredible character development. The plotting, going back and forth between the two timelines and the two sets of sisters is very intricate. This book pulls you right in. It's very compelling. So I really enjoyed it. And I did have some questions that weren't answered until the epilogue at the very end. I just finished it last night. So I really enjoyed The Sirens by Amelia Hart. And thank you to all the people that recommended it. The second audiobook that I read in October, or listened to in October, was White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was another YA novel, sort of a haunted house story, but also with lots of real world issues. It's about a family that has just moved from California to the Midwest, to this large city. The main character, Marigold, who is 16 or 17, I think, 16. Her mother, they're in a blended family. Her mother has won an artist residency. She's a writer in this city, which is why they moved there. A free house comes with the residency, so they really couldn't turn it down. Marigold has a younger brother who's in middle school, and their new stepfather, Alec, has a daughter of his own, a 9-year-old Piper. So Marigold, her brother Sam, and their mom Raquel are all black. Alec and Piper are white. But, you know, their parents are very much in love. The kids are trying to make it work, even though Piper's been kind of bratty to them. So they find out that the house they're moving into is newly renovated, and the renovations aren't even completely finished, but it is in the middle of a block of houses that are like falling down. They're the only ones that live on their block. All the other houses are like ready to be condemned. So it's a really weird situation. And then strange things start happening in the house immediately. Even the construction workers that are still finishing up some work are clearly scared and don't want to stay any longer than they have to. So tools go missing, doors slam, they come in the kitchen and all the cupboard doors are open. Things go missing, things get broken, all this weird stuff is happening. But meanwhile, Marigold is dealing with some real world serious problems. She just got out of rehab. She had a drug problem with Percocet. She suffers from severe anxiety. They went through this horrible experience in their old house, why they had to move, with bed bugs. She is now, that's a trigger for her anxiety. She's constantly, and it's kind of OCD even, she's constantly thinking that she sees bed bugs and then going into her mode for getting rid of them with rubbing alcohol and boiling water and all kinds of things. So her mother's really worried about her. Her younger brother's really worried about her. They're trying to settle into this place with all this weird stuff happening, and she's dealing with all her own anxiety. So this novel, yes, there's a haunted house vibe going on here, and some very weird, creepy things happening. It was perfect for the season. But in addition, it deals with topics of mental health, of drug use, because she also uses a particular strain of marijuana to calm down her nerves, which she doesn't have access to anymore now that they're in the Midwest. There are issues of race and class, gentrification. All of this is woven into this narrative. I thought it was excellent. It's the first book I've read by Tiffany Jackson, but I really enjoyed it. I would definitely read more. There is a lot of suspense, action. It's a thriller. Marigold is pretty sure there's a ghost in the house doing all these things. So I did count it for my ghost story bingo under BIPOC author. It was a gripping novel, and it definitely kept me engrossed. My last book for the month, which I plan to finish by tomorrow night, I haven't yet, is Call Me Iggy, a graphic novel, YA graphic novel by Jorge Aguirre and Rafael Rosado. And it is also a ghost story. Now, it's not necessarily a spooky ghost. The ghost in this case is the main character's grandfather. So the little blurb on the front of this says, "Never let your dead grandfather give you love advice or Spanish lessons." So I'm really looking forward to reading that. It came out last year, and I've been meaning to read it for ages. When I realized there was a ghost in it, and it would be perfect for the year of reading ghost stories with the book cougars, I decided to squeeze it in. So in my next Friday reads, I'll tell you how it was. And just quickly, I've mentioned this before, but during the month, I have been working on the Penguin Book of Ghost Stories from Elizabeth Gaskell to Ambrose Bierce. Stories selected by Michael Newton. These are all classic authors. Dickens, Elizabeth Gaskell, Robert Louis Stevenson, Harriet Beecher Stowe, and some others that I hadn't heard of, but that were very popular during that era. So I'm a little more than halfway, and I've been reading the stories in between other books. So this month I read several of the stories. And I talked about those during my Friday reads. I won't get into detail, but I'm going to be continuing to read this through the end of the year. I've also been working on Haunted New Orleans, Southern Spirits, Garden District Ghosts, and Vampire Venues, as retold by Bonnie Stewart. So these are real ghost stories. These are things that real people, modern people, have experienced in New Orleans, where I used to live. So I'm familiar with a lot of the places they're describing. And then she goes into the history behind the property where the ghosts have been sighted. It is excellent. And since it's nonfiction, I'm going to continue to read this during Nonfiction November, which, yes, I'm still going to be doing, even though it's not hosted on Booktube anymore. It's still hosted in the blogging world, has been for decades. So I like to read that way. I love to devote November to nonfiction. And I also read a few more stories in 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart by Jenna Rose Nethercott. I don't know if I'll continue reading this or save the rest of the stories for next spooky season, but I am enjoying it. These are more fantasy fairy tale type stories. So they're hit and miss with me. Some are a little too fantastical for me. Others I'm really enjoying. My ghost story bingo's looking pretty good. I'm filling up more spaces. All of those books counted for the RIP event, Readers Imbibing Peril. And I've crossed off quite a few pumpkins on my TBR Harvest. There was also, as I said, for TBR Harvest, this sort of cover challenge. I just didn't have the time this month to do the scavenger hunt aspect of it, but I did mark off, without using the dates, I just marked off categories of the covers for the books that I read. So things like black on the cover, animals on the cover, Halloween themed item, the ghosts on the cover of the ghost story book. Okay, so that's my October reading wrap up. Please let me know in the comments down below what you read in October. Tell me what your favorite books were.